Lately, I've been experimenting with the Dehancer plugin inside of Adobe Premiere, and so today I just wanted to share a little bit of my perspective and my experience using this plugin and how it all fits inside of my workflow as a full-time editor, a full-time videographer, and content creator. And just a quick disclaimer, I am by no means a professional colorist, and so this breakdown is going to be a little less of a technical overview, but more of just how it fits into my workflow and how I use this plugin to speed up my creation process. Dehancer is basically a film emulation plugin for Premiere that makes it easy to explore film looks without overcomplicating your process. Dehancer includes a large library of film emulation profiles with over 60 distinct film stock options. These are based on real film stock characteristics from brands like Kodak and Fuji and much more. If you like the film look but don't want to get super technical with color, this makes experimenting with it way easier. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about some pros and what I really like about this plugin. Right off the bat, one of the first things that I really liked about this plugin was that I didn't have to add a separate conversion LUT to my footage. Inside Dehancer, you can choose your camera profile and convert it straight to Rec. 709. I shoot a lot on Sony and sometimes Blackmagic, and there are times where I've used both of those cameras in the same project, and so just having this makes it a lot easier to convert my footage and get everything into the same starting place faster. Next, I want to talk about one of my favorite things about this plugin, and that is the film stock selection. There are a lot of options, and I haven't even gone through all of them yet, but just clicking through and seeing how each stock affects the image is really cool to see and really inspiring to see how I can stylize the footage and also in figuring out what kind of mood I want to go for. Another big thing I like about this plugin is the halation and bloom tools. I actually own physical diffusion filters that go right on my lenses, and I do like keeping things in camera when it makes sense, but there are times where filters make the footage feel a little too milky or a little too soft, or I only want that look on certain shots. I can dial in the halation and bloom exactly how I want, control the strength, the radius, and fine-tune it for each individual shot. The control is there if you're intentional about it, and just having this flexibility is a huge win in my opinion. I also really like the film grain that's built into this. I've kind of struggled when it comes to finding the right film grain overlays to put on top of my footage, but even when I do find a good one to use, it's still just sitting on top of the footage. With Dehancer, the grain feels like it's baked into the image, and you can easily control the strength, the texture, and the kind of grain you want really easily. Next up, I want to talk about the speed and simplicity that this plugin can offer. For me, the biggest benefit is how easy and quick it is to get to a look that I'm happy with. There are a lot of settings in here, but I don't need to touch most of them. I can adjust a few key sliders and already be in a really good place. I can still use lumetri scopes if I want to fine-tune things, but Dehancer gets me to that film style look way faster and easier than jumping into Resolve or building everything from scratch. Okay, so now I'm gonna jump into some things that I don't particularly like about this plugin. Number one, it can feel a little overwhelming, especially if you don't have a ton of experience with color grading. If you're just a beginner trying to learn how to color grade, this would not be the first tool I recommend. Number two, this isn't something I'd use for everything. I wouldn't really use Dehancer for podcasts or clean corporate work where the goal is sharp, neutral, and consistent looking footage. This plugin really shines when you're going for a certain type of mood, tone, or stylization. Music videos, documentaries, short films, creative projects, that's where this really makes sense for me to use this in my workflow. Another thing to keep in mind is the performance. Dehancer can be pretty heavy on your system, especially if you're stacking multiple effects. The playback isn't always smooth, so just make sure your laptop or whatever you're using has decent amount of specs to be able to use this tool in the smoothest way possible. Number four, it can be really easy to overdo the film look if you are not careful. If you don't understand what certain settings are doing, you can spend a lot of time tweaking things and still end up with something that looks pushed a little too far. And so last thing on this list is the price. If you're just starting out, this may feel a little expensive. I think this makes more sense when you already know what kind of look you want to go for and you value speed and experimentation. Overall, I really enjoyed experimenting with Dehancer. It makes me want to play around more, try some different looks, and approach color in a way that feels creative instead of intimidating. If you are an editor in Premiere and you are trying to go for a certain film-inspired look and want to do so in a more simple and easy way, then I think this plugin is definitely worth checking out. If you guys are curious and want to try Dehancer for yourself, you can use the code TINELLY10 for 10% off, and I will link that in the description below. That'll wrap up this video. Drop a comment below if you guys think this is something you'll be using in your editing workflow. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.